Sponsored by CuriosityStream. Get access to my streaming video service, Nebula, when you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description. GDC, the Game Developers Conference, is cancelled. Facebook's F8 conference, cancelled. Geneva Auto Show, cancelled. South by Southwest, cancelled. Several US states have declared emergencies. Italy is on lockdown. Santa Clara County, essentially Silicon Valley, has effectively issued a short-term ban on all events. Now, Apple doesn't typically pre-announce anything. No products, no events, nothing. But that Apple will hold a worldwide developers conference, WWDC, the first week of June each year, every year, was one of the safest bets in tech today. Until today. So if COVID-19, the novel coronavirus, prevents Apple from holding its annual macOS, iOS, tvOS, watchOS, and now iPadOS event, what could the company possibly do instead? I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is Vector. WWDC, Dub, typically kicks off on the Monday morning with a public keynote. That's the one where Tim Cook comes out, says, "Good morning," maybe talks some services, but then hands it on over to Craig Federighi and the team for macOS, iOS, and now iPadOS, and Kevin Lynch and his team for watchOS, maybe Eddie Q and the team for tvOS as well. Some years, there's hardware, iPads or Macs or HomePods and the like, and then Phil Schiller and the marketing team take the stage to show that off. And that's the big event, the one most people are waiting for. But there's a second keynote held on the Monday as well, right after the first, the platform State of the Union, the developers keynote. It's not as open or advertised as a product keynote, of course, but it's every bit as big and as important. Sebastian Marino-Mess, VP of Software, has been starting them off recently, with several of Apple's software leads diving into the deeper, more technical aspects of the new OS features. And, all of that, both keynotes are already streamed live, so that part shouldn't be a problem. Apple could do that right from the stage, if not the San Jose Conference Center, then the Steve Jobs Theater, and if not in front of a crowd of developers, then in front of a crowd of Apple employees. And media could be there as well. Maybe. Many bigger media outlets are already instituting travel bans, especially internationally. Even if it was just US press, some companies simply don't want to take on the risk associated with even interstate or any travel or meetings for work, like at all. So the audience could be filled with Apple employees. That happens all the time already, when company events are held at the Steve Jobs Theater. That would at least give Apple the crowd reactions that are so integral to the energy and flow of the keynotes. But even with no audience, as odd as that might seem, just streaming events to millions and millions of people is something Apple and the teams they work with know how to do, because they've been doing it for years. So keynotes would be one of the easiest parts of the conference to make virtual. The Apple Design Awards, the ADAs, typically close out the Monday. John Galenzi, head of evangelism, and Sean Pruden, senior director of partner management, have hosted it for years, honoring the best and the brightest apps and games. And the ADAs have already been streamed for years as well. It's an award ceremony though, so the vibe is totally different. We're used to seeing the winners come up on stage to get their awards, for example. So maybe Apple could put together some slick packages showing off all the nominees, get the winners their aluminum cubes early, and have some special segments to run on them as well. Having all those apps and games get featured could make up for, at least in part, the loss of the in-real-life follow-up aspects. None of this would be normal or even remotely the same, but it would be all the events from day one in bits, if not in atoms. After most Apple product events finish, a demo area opens up where media and special guests can check out everything that was just announced. It's where all the hands-on videos you see get shot frantically as everyone races to upload as fast as humanly possible. See, Apple doesn't do pre-briefings in the same way as many other companies. Samsung and the like will often bring media in early, show them the new devices, let them shoot videos and take photos even a week or two in advance, so they can have a full package of content ready to launch the same time as the event. But that's just not how Apple rolls. It risks too much of the surprise and delight the company wants for its big reveals. Apple may do one or two advanced stories with huge outlets like Vanity Fair or Wired or ABC, but for 99.9% of the media, the keynote is the pre-briefing and the demo area afterwards is the hands-on opportunity. And the more in-depth briefings that happen afterwards, where Apple can bring in all their staff from around the world to help handle all the media from around the world, just makes it as efficient as possible for everyone as possible. Apple has taken briefings on the road before, sending public relations and marketing to to big cities around the world to meet with international media closer to their home turf, most recently for the 16-inch MacBook Pro and AirPods Pro. But it's not as efficient as having everyone in the same place, because Apple only has enough press and marketing people to hit the very biggest cities. It still requires a lot of travel and a lot of meetings for everyone, two things that don't exactly help with the whole virtual thing. Now, products could be couriered out en masse for things like reviews, and briefings can be done over the phone. That's happened in the past as well. Again, it's not the same, but at least it's safe. Most of DubDub, Tuesday morning to Friday afternoon, is taken up by the sessions. The ones evangelism and speakers training and all the engineers and designers spend weeks putting together and rehearsing. The ones that explain how to use the new frameworks and best practices for everything, from code efficiency to experience design. Many of these, especially the bigger ones in the main halls, have again been streamed for years, and all of them have been made available quickly and openly on developer.apple.com for a while now. That part could totally stay the same as well, though, like with the keynotes, the lack of an audience might take some adjustments on the part of the speakers. And because, yeah, it'll be weird without crowd reactions. Everyone lives for those cheers of happiness when a long-awaited feature request is finally filled, and everyone needs to hear the jeers when something long depended on is taken away. Evangelism has done some online-only presentations though, so while they're very different in form, they could be done in a way that serves mostly the same function. If you're not familiar with how the labs work at WWDC, basically, there's a giant hall divided into a dozen or so sections where different teams, the Safari and WebKit team, the Playground team, the Security team, the UIKit team, all the teams take turns setting up for a few hours at a time. Developers can then sign up and line up for a chance to talk to them, so they can get specific help with their specific apps. Maybe there's a bug that's been stopping them cold, or like a framework they're just not grokking, or a problem they just can't solve, but the engineer who literally created or maintains that code can help them figure it out. With the familiar faces and clipboards of Worldwide Developer Relations, WWDR, walking and wheeling around and keeping it all running like clockwork. For developers, it's the single most valuable part of the conference. Same for the smaller but just as important design and app store labs. And there's no real way to replicate that. Apple has done tours in the past where evangelists have gone from country to country and city to city to talk about new frameworks, but it isn't anywhere nearly the same in scope or scale. Because the thing is, Apple can spare 1,000 engineers for 1 week to help thousands of developers all at once. Apple cannot spare them for a month-long tour to help dozens or hundreds at a time, especially not with the travel time and the travel and meeting risks, which are the same as the ones I described for roadshow briefings. Theoretically, Apple could create virtual tickets, free or paid, if Apple feels like it needs some form of demand limiter, and run the usual lottery, and then set up appointments for online meetings done over screen sharing, and that could maybe come close. Who knows, maybe Apple could use this as an opportunity to launch iMessage Theater, where everyone can get together in virtual rooms with their Memoji and just do all of this as if they were together. It would be safer, but also more sterile. No hustle and bustle, no chance encounters or serendipitous moments to meet the person or hear the answer you never knew you needed. But at least it would be something. Same with the jackets or pins, the low-key swag Apple typically gives out to attendees of the show. Maybe that could be sent out to the people attending the virtual events as physical thank yous for going with the less than ideal for anyone flow. One of my absolute favorite parts of DubDub are the Meetups, the official ones announced and run by Apple during the conference. I make it a point to get to the accessibility meetup every year so I can see how all the assistive technologies are being implemented in real-world apps, often in ways no one has ever imagined before. There are diversity and inclusivity meetups as well, specific framework meetups like for HomeKit or ARKit, and recently workout meetups as well so your body can get the same burn as your brain. And there's the Beer Bash, the annual party that closes out the show with a headline musical artist, of course, but also Apple execs doing their best to dance and satisfy all the selfie lines. None of that really lends itself well to virtualization, not unless and until there are augmented and alternate reality glasses that we can all wear to walk into rendered rooms, and even then, avatars really still aren't the same. Social media could maybe allow for some form of interaction, but meetups would still be one of the bigger losses if DubDub wasn't held IRL as usual. But just the biggest loss would be the community. After Macworld shut down, WW became the one place, the one time, where everyone in the Apple community that could afford to go, even if they had no ability or interest in attending the actual conference, to meet and greet each other every year. Official meetups and beer bash aside, there wouldn't be Jim Dalrymple's beard bash across the street after the keynote, or the Relay FM party, or the Mac Rumors mixer, or the talk show live with John Gruber and his celebrity guests, Moltz. There wouldn't be all the chance meetings in all the hallways as you went from session to session or through the labs, or sit down at one of the tables to download all the betas. And there wouldn't be the lunches and dinners and drinks and all the chat before, after, and in between that makes WW so much more than just a conference. That makes it an opportunity for some and a reunion for others filled with old friends and brand new. Again, social media could fill in for some of that, but only in the most superficial way imaginable. And that, frankly, is just the price we pay for tolerating less effective management from our governments than we demand from the executives who make our gadgets. Now, because I'm talking about COVID-19, the novel coronavirus, YouTube might very well suppress this video. It's what they're currently doing to prevent the spread of disinformation, exploitation, and abuse. But it can also make it harder to get real information out. And that's one of the reasons I've joined with other education creators to build Nebula, so that with people like Legal Eagle, Thomas Frank, Wendover, Sarah Z, 12Tone, and Medlife Crisis, we can keep making the types of content that just wouldn't do well with YouTube and the algorithm. And because Nebula now comes bundled with CuriosityStream, you also get access to thousands of documentaries and series, like Right Now, which explores advances in technology, challenging global issues, pivotal moments in history, and the fascinating people at the center of all of it. Talk about timely. By signing up for just $19.99 a year, for the whole year, you won't just be helping me out, but the entire educational community. Go to curiositystream.com/vector for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and nonfiction series, and now Nebula as well. And enter the promo code VECTOR to start your membership completely free for the first 31 days. Thanks CuriosityStream, and to all of you for supporting the show. In a perfect world, WWDC 2020 would go off as planned, without a hitch, without a worry. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in this one, the only one we've got. So we'll have to wait and see what our governments, local, regional, and national do, and what Apple needs to do, hopefully well before June. But now I want to hear from you. Hit like if you do, subscribe if you haven't already, and then hit up the comments and let me know. How should Apple handle WWDC in the age of COVID-19? Thanks for watching. See you next video.